I want to talk about trust, something we talked about in 2001 when we had a summit at Laura. Now, we had just launched Cape York Partnership with Peter Beattie when we met at Wudjil Wudjil in 1999. And then we had the summit at Alum, and then in 2001 we had a summit at Laura Dance Festival grounds. And it was at the height of a lot of controversy. There was a lot of newspaper stories about me, Mr. Ahmat, Gerhard, that we're going to take over the communities and we're going to steal people's money. And we were being attacked in the parliament by the National Party leader and lots of leaders from the communities in Cape York. Oh. And in those days I didn't have really thick skin. So every attack made you worry and be anxious and angry. And I started to think about trust. Why can't people trust? So this is the presentation I gave at Laura in 2001. It's interesting to have a look back over it. Okay. Who am I talking to? All right, next one. And you know what? I can't read that. So can I get nearer the screen?
Yeah, you can get them up. And then you can...
Thank you. Okay. So I'm thinking about, back then I was thinking about comparing. And I'm only thinking about Hopevale, but I'm thinking about all the communities. And I'm thinking what might have been the situation in 1971. Because we were thinking about 2001. That was the time we were talking about this. And I thought in 1971, how much friendship was there in Hopevale amongst Bama? How much mutual support? How much praise? How much trust? And when we had problems, did we solve them? And then I asked, well, what's the situation today? Ooh. Friendship, not as much. Support, not as much. We don't praise one another like we used to. We don't trust one another like we used to. And some of our problems, we just go on and on and on, and we never solve them. So I was comparing, maybe I was looking through rose-coloured glasses, but I was trying to compare 2001 with 1971. Okay, next one. The same comparison, jealousy back in the day. Backstabbing, criticism, suspicion, conflict. And today, that's 23 years ago, by the way, high levels of jealousy, backstabbing, criticism, suspicion, conflict. Ngani, why? Okay, next. So my thought was that it seemed that the positivity went down and the negativity went up. Ngani, why? I don't know if that's the right story, but that seemed to me to be the story of my own community. Okay. But if you want to have a strong community and a strong society, you've got to try and lift the positives high and push the negatives low as you can. You can't get rid of them. It's not always going to be high positive. But you try to keep the negative under control and you try to be more positive than negative. So, friendship, mutual support, praise, trust, solve the problems. That's a strong community. Okay. But when you get into this mentality as a community of negativity, then it's like living in a ghetto in the outback. You don't trust one another. You're not friendly with everybody. Yeah, you have an argument, but can you solve it afterwards? Why have we got to be suspicious of one another all the time? The problem is your children will grow up in an outback ghetto if the negatives are very strong. Okay.
I've got a question. You're saying from 1971 to 2001 and such a massive change. Would that be from the invention of technology going forward, or?
Okay, we can talk about, let's have a discussion about that afterwards. Why? It's a good question. But remember, there was no social media, not even Facebook then. 2001, right? We didn't have a phone. I don't think I had a computer back then. Were we using email then? Maybe, yeah, I think so. All right, the key to a successful community is trust in one another, in our leaders, in our organisations, and in our families. Yeah, I think so. If you've got high levels of trust, then you're going to have a pretty successful community. Okay. So this is the ngani question. Why? Why has trust broken down amongst our people? That's the question I was asking in 2001. Okay. So this is the theory. This is my answer to why. And it might be wrong, it might be right, but it's the most comforting thing for me. When I think about it like this, I stop taking it personally. Yeah? I stop taking criticism personally. When I think about it like this, I understand why Bama have suspicion and why Bama don't trust. And this kind of understanding explains to me why we behave like this. And we should keep pushing and not take it personally. Okay. Now, by the way, Arvid taught me this. Karen's husband, he's the one who switched the lights on for me. Long, long time ago. So this explanation, Jan gave it to me. Okay. I think our challenge is Bama, before the coming of white people, lived in largely a flat society. Yeah? Yeah, we had elders, but socially and economically, we're a flat society. Hunter-gatherers, living on the land, living in our culture. And then the white fellas come and they build a big pyramid. Big towering pyramid. Not everybody is flat. Not everybody is equal. White fellas don't know how to live in a flat world. They live in a world somebody has got to be at the top, another mob just below, another mob, another mob, another mob, and right down the bottom are the weakest people, the poorest people. That's the way white people organise the world. But the world we had before Captain Cook was the world over this side. So what happens when you bring them two together? Okay. Well, our place, we're amongst the poor people who live at the bottom of the pyramid. That's our home. That's our destination. The world is a big, giant pyramid, and our people are the lowest of the low. We're the poorest of the poor. We're the weakest of the weak. Okay. And when you live in a pyramid world, all the good things flow to the top. All the wealth gets concentrated up to the tip. And the great bulk of the poor people get very little. Yeah, I think we all have a sense that that's the way the world works. It's no more flat. You like that. Okay. But in Australia we have a lot of money. The government has a lot of money. And we have what they call a welfare state. So the government decides we've got to guarantee a safety net for everybody so that they can live at a minimum. They've got a bit of money to buy food, pay the rent, feed the kids. So the welfare state says, okay, there's a floor here, and we won't let anybody sink further than the floor. The lowest people in Australia can have a floor underneath them called welfare. Okay. But somehow we sink below the floor. I was thinking. You can go lower than welfare. You can be hungrier than welfare. You can be more broke than welfare. And we seem to be in that hole. A lot of our people seem to be in the hole. Okay. But you know what? How come we can't all have something better? Because who doesn't want something better for themselves? Bum the same as anybody else. They want something better for themselves. They want their children to have something better. They don't want their children to be hungry. They don't want their children to be uneducated. They want their children to have a good job. How come we can't get these good things? If we want it, if it was up to us to choose, we'd choose a good thing for our kids. We don't want to live in a hole. How come we're not allowed to get good things and improve the situation for our children? Money. Why? Okay. Now this is the crucial thing. You see, this pyramid society treats different people differently. Some people, with the arrow pointed north, some people are allowed to move upwards in the pyramid. The pyramid has some rules, and some people are allowed to move upwards. and improve their position. Where the dot is, many people are encouraged to be happy to stay where they are. I don't want more money. I don't want a better house. I don't want things that other people have. I'm happy for my kids to end up the same as me. But given how hard life is for us, why would we want our children to have the same thing as us? But somehow the world tells us, be satisfied with what you got. That's your lot in life. The third thing that the pyramid does to you, instead of getting you to look up for something better, it prefers that you look across at somebody else. You get more obsessed with worrying about your neighbour than worrying about somebody further up the pyramid. Jealousy. I want to block Fiona. Why should Fiona move ahead? And so the pyramid encourages conflict between people. Like a crab in a bucket. If the crab tries to crawl out of the bucket, Mangal will just come out and pull you back down. And it's because the pyramid is telling you, look at the other crabs and make sure they don't climb out of the bucket. Instead of thinking, oh, look, them people outside of the bucket there, they're free. Why can't I be like them? Why can't we all climb out? No more. We're too busy looking at each other. Okay. Sorry, go back. Come on. Go back. No, back. Back. Where? No, sorry, forward. Forward. Okay. The next one is many people are encouraged to fight against people in a worse position. Nadi. I don't want to think about those people up there, but I will think about people beneath me, and you know what? So poor white people, poor as our people, they are vicious to us, Tungandan and Bama. They're poor like us. And yet why they hate us so much? That's because poor white people, they're more obsessed with pushing us down than they are about thinking how they're going to make life better for themselves. Pauline Hanson. She is playing on the fact that her people, her white people, are more obsessed about us than they are about getting a better life for themselves. Pauline is worried about Aborigines getting more. Whereas we should be in the same boat as a lot of those white fellas who got nothing. But instead of them seeing us as people in the same position as them, they see them, so they only look at this. Pauline says, no, it's not where you are in the pyramid, it's the colour of your skin. that counts. Concentrate on the skin. Don't concentrate on the fact that you're broke and they're broke. Okay, and the final thing is, most depressingly, is the pyramid teaches many people encouraged to see themselves as victims and to resign themselves to sliding down even further. And that's our people's mentality. If you can get people to accept that Danaan place is down at the bottom, you've won the battle. If the pyramid can convince some people that their rightful place in the pyramid is down in the hole, game over. Okay. So instead of everybody aiming for something better and uniting and getting organized for something better, people are instead divided, looking across at each other and divided and diverted, and they're confused. The other one is confusion. Oh, it's okay, I'll stay where I am. Blackfellas don't like money. Who wants more money? That's Wangarbe. That belongs to white people. Got confused. Oh, education, that's for white people. That's for not for Aboriginal. And we start to accept, oh, blackfella way is to resign yourself. Okay, next one. So the structure of the society remains like a pyramid. So this shape stays. Even though if I asked anybody, do you want something better for your children? Everybody says yes. How come we never get it then? How come that never happens? It's because in order for that to happen, you have got to be mindful of the dynamics. Okay. Okay, next one. So the question we asked back in 2001 was, how do we advance as a people in this kind of society? How do we advance? How do we lift our people up? Okay. Well, these are the rules that we came up with. Number one rule, you have to have capital. If you've got capital, you will advance. If you've got capital, can be money capital, it can be human capital because you're educated or skillful or whatever, or you've got cultural capital, or you've got social capital. If you've got capital, those are good things for you to rise up in the world. Second rule, you're an entrepreneur and you can contribute to wealth creation. Those kind of people, they can rise up in the pyramid. People who can contribute to capitalism. There's a role for you in the pyramid. Third one, if you're educated and creative and you have knowledge, you can contribute to wealth creation. So, you're educated, you can get a job, and you can improve your earning and you can rise up. That's the rule. Okay. But for those who want to advance, all of us who want to lift our families, you've got to understand that the pyramid, I'm going to change the metaphor now, the pyramid is like this game here. The pyramid is like a snakes and ladders. How do you climb the ladder? And how do you avoid the snake? Your next move might see you climb the ladder. Or your next move, you might get swallowed by the snake. You've got to be careful about what choices you make. And what makes it complicated, and I can tell you this theory is absolutely right. What makes it complicated is that in this game of snakes and ladders, the snakes look like ladders. And the ladders look like snakes. You think you're climbing a ladder, you're going down a snake. You think you're avoiding a snake, but in fact, that's a ladder. It's twisted the other way around. And you've got to be able to see the truth of your next move. The world will tell you, hey, ladder over here. Nah. Often it will be a snake. And the world will tell you, hey, snake over here, watch that. And in truth, it's a ladder. It's like a upside down picture. So we've got to play the game of snakes and ladders, understanding that we have to play it in the opposite way. I'll give you some examples of that, but next one. Okay, this is an attempt to identify, so what are the snakes? What are the snakes to watch out for? Firstly, first snake is get the blackfellas to fight amongst each other. That's the first snake.
We saw that at the referendum.
Number one. Get the blackfellas not to look up, but look across at each other and start fighting. That's a sure way of going down, yeah? Okay, next one. Snake number two is get poor people to discourage and pull each other down. Who the hell do you think you are? I don't think you guys have heard that phrase. You're a useless black so-and-so like the rest of us. You haven't heard that one either. That's another snake. Okay. Another one is get blackfellas to aim low. Don't aim high. That's not the blackfellow way. Don't think you can climb that ladder. Be satisfied with what you got. Okay, another snake. Snake number 4. Get preoccupied. Yeah? Waste your time, waste your money, waste your life, waste your body. That's perfect. Perfect to get people not only to stay where they are, but to get deeper into the hole. Okay. Get blackfellas to think they don't care about money and property. That's not the blackfellow way. That's whitefellas' money. Why blackfellow got to be a businessman?
Or a woman.
Why blackfellow got to own a motor car or have a fancy house? Or you get people to believe what is the right thing for blackfellas to do, And if you can convince them, then that's perfect. If they have that mentality. Okay. Get black fellas to be jealous of other black fellas, but not white fellas. I don't want so-and-so running the shop in the community, but I've got no problem with the white fella running it. Yeah, how many times we objected to one of our community members doing something, but we got no objections to the white fellas doing it. We're all up in arms when one of our own people try to do it. But Wangara do it, no, we'll help the Wangara. Okay. And weaken blackfellas by encouraging them to feel sorry for themselves but never get organised. You know, confirm that they're victims. Confirm them to stay where they are and to dig themselves deeper in the hole. Okay. And that's what I said earlier, right? This game here is a very deceptive game. Every snake you see there is in fact a ladder, and every ladder is a snake. Okay. How do we climb? I'm almost finished. How do we climb up as a people? Let's go. We need to understand how this pyramid works. Okay. Alan Creek used that word, zigzag, when we were in Laura in 2001. I got that word from him. We need to zigzag to climb upwards. That's how we dodge the snake, yeah? And we go for the ladders, dodge the snake, go for the ladders. We've got to zigzag to avoid being sucked down the snake. And make sure we've found the right ladder. Okay. We've got to get sober and get clear from drugs. Yeah? If we want to climb up, we've got to get on top of this problem. Okay. We need unity. And we've got to have trust. We've got to build the trust. Okay. We have to get our people educated. That's a big ladder. Okay. And we've got to support and invest in our own people. That means when we get up, we've got to put a hand back down to the next one to pull them up. That's what Jewish people do. That's what Italians do. That's what Greeks do. They climb up a bit, then they're bringing their mob up behind them. And we've got to stop wasting our capital. We get our money every Wednesday and we give it back, most of it back to the white fellas in the next 24 hours. Every week. Every week in Cape York, I'm going to guess now, Sonia, we get $1 million. And I reckon 600,000 of that goes back into the white fellas' pockets within 24 hours. Okay. We must wake up to the confusions of this. Okay. Yep. And that's the final point. You know who tell us? The people who tell us that this is a ladder but it is in fact a snake. Our friends tell us that. The people who are most likely to give us the wrong advice are our friends in Indigenous affairs. The people who are in our ear saying, hey, don't trust Cape York Land Council. Don't trust CYP. Richie, Gerhardt and all going to steal the money. Don't go with that. Those people invariably are our white friends who are telling us that. They're the ones telling us that what is a snake is a ladder and what is a ladder is a snake. Because they themselves are confused. But if I had, if I could do one thing in the wave a magic wand, I'd get rid of most of our friends. Eject, eject, eject. And can I press delete? Because too many of them. I don't know how many times over the last 24 years we have set up opportunities for people to get their land back, to set up, and then they employ a wangar. And all of a sudden the wangar is saying, oh, don't trust them people in Cairns. And all those wangar are gone now, waves and waves of them, they're gone. But the damage that's caused, it's 24 years later and we're still not in Wujal, my mother's own people. And I want my people to have the same benefits at Wujal as they do at Hopevale. That's because wangar, our friends, people that we willing to trust them, whispering in our ear. That's the ones we trust. They won't trust a relative like me, relation. Won't trust Indigenous leaders. But minute wangar tell us, we're ever ready to listen to our friends. But we won't listen to ourselves. I think next year, Richie, the Land Council and Balkanoo will have returned 98% of Cape York to the traditional owners. 98%. And yet, caused by those people there, those elders, and yet today, who would say they trust the Cape York Land Council? Maybe half of our people? Why is it that despite the proof of the work and the outcomes, why is it that we still have low levels of trust? And my concern is that if you don't find the unity, if we don't got no way of finding the unity again, then the next change that you want to make, it's going to be very, very hard. You need unity. And that's what When Gerhard, me, Richie, when we started, we didn't have to build unity. It was already there. The unity came from these people, from our elders. Whereas now, we've got to rebuild it. And we can't keep listening to the voice, the lawyer, the whatever, temporary CEO. They're not going to be here. They're going to be in Cape York in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. They're gone. Their mortgage is paid off. That sounds a bit personal there.